So, good morning, Nantita. Welcome to the Median podcast. It's lovely to see you again. So, tell me, what's this comedy show and how come you're laughing? Because of a crazy week, a bad week, or what's going on?
No, it was just a really long week at work. But
Yeah.
starting this year, work has been quite a roller coaster for me per se. And it's not to say that I don't enjoy the roller coaster ride, but by the end of the week, the end of the business week, it's almost always that you feel so mentally exhausted that even your creative juices are struggling to churn.
Wow. Is it,
So
is it people? Is it too much going on, or what is it?
I think it's a bit of both, right? I am in the business of people as a business, but I'm also in marketing, which requires me to be meeting people and speaking to a lot of people across demographics, across cultures, across functions internally, right? So it requires me to be a bit out there as well. I think it's the inherent demand of the role, of the position itself, which I absolutely love. And I think it's that, like I said, it's not to say that I don't love what I do. I absolutely love it. But I think slowly I'm starting to feel a lot more mindful of how I feel at the end of a typical business week, and
nice.
And what I need to do to be able to slide into my weekend, make sure I've really started to like de-stress every element in my brain.
Wow. So if we talk weekend right now, obviously you're currently in Brussels in Belgium.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. So if you had a crazy week and it's full of people, you're talking to departments, different teams, different people, right? So the weekend is opposite?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
Not at all. I think, so I don't know if you heard of the Myers-Briggs 16 personalities concept.
I've done it before, but I can't remember.
Okay, so there's this genius who came up with a personality test. And the idea of this test was he told people that essentially you can categorize them into 16 different types of personalities. And if you go to 16personalities.com, you can actually take the test and it'll give you a little evaluation at the end of it. And it'll tell you which type of personality you fit into, what are your strengths, weaknesses, etc. Right.
Nice.
So according to him, I'm a typical extrovert. So a social extrovert human who derives a lot of energy from people. In general. And his analysis on my personality is that because I also have a strong empathetic side of my personality, it does not let me easily switch off or completely shut myself away from people, their stories, their experiences, their narrative, what have you, right? So to go back to your question, my weekends are also pretty filled with people.
But obviously you enjoy it, right? So that's okay.
Oh, absolutely do. Like I said, I speak on that point, which is I derive my energy from people. However, I think with age and time, I have learned how people can also be of two kinds, in my opinion. One is what I call a little bit of energy drainers, who don't intentionally want to like squeeze you out, but it's just the energy that they bring to the table, to the equation, to the interaction. And then you have your energy enablers who actually add positivity and that fuel and sort of catalyze that energy that you already had and sort of amplify that, So over time, I've kind of, especially the people that I see often, my close circle of friends, extended family and people here in Europe that I interact with very regularly, right? I think it's now become easy for me to put them in, sort of slug them into either of the two categories, if that
Wow.
makes
Okay.
sense.
Wow. You actually categorizing your friends, so to speak, between energy sappers and energy elevators.
That just made me sound like a terrible person, but
No, no, no. I think all of us, maybe subconsciously sort of maybe do it. Because I think at the end of the day, right, you want to be you want to be with people who elevate you, don't you, Nantita?
absolutely. And, I completely believe in that one ideology, which is you are, at the end of the day, you are an average of the five people that you most interact with.
I
And
agree.
if you can mindfully handpick those five people as your first circle of interactions, right? I have personally felt that your, um, your perspectives, your way of looking at life can substantially improve.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting. Would you say these people compliment you, or would they offer a different perspective?
Interesting, because two of my closest friends,
Hmm.
in fact, one of my best friends who's in the States, and she's one person I communicate the most with in a given week, even. She's somebody who is complimentary, but at the same time, she's also my go-to person to give me a completely flip on the perspective. So she's also
Nice.
somebody who also challenges my thinking and makes me realize, like, okay, so this is not an angle I considered. And
Yeah,
she
you need that,
is
eh?
so intelligent. She is so smart, and her name is Archana. She's so intelligent in the way she perceives things, in the way she looks at things, in the way she's able to articulate something. And that articulation for me is so valuable, because oftentimes that articulation is quite different from the way I would have imagined it. Um,
Interesting.
and yes, yes.
Wow. I remember reading somewhere where I think a lot of people out there, we sort of instinctively know what we need to do, but sometimes you need a good friend or someone to just sort of, bit remind you, just poke you a bit, right? To poke you in the right direction. Um, would you say that yourself and Akshana have very similar values, but a very different perspective, and that's why you guys are best friends? Would you say
I
something
think
like that?
so. I
Yeah.
think so. I think it's extremely important. And I think this is irrespective of the nature of the relationship, even, right?
Mm,
It could be platonic or romantic. I think the intersection of your value system is extremely important
it
for the
is.
longevity of the equation itself.
It is a. I was sort of thinking about my sort of friends, and you're right. You really got to have that sort of core value that really binds you together. I'm a big fan of that. Maybe 5 to 10 people, so to speak, but we all think very differently, and that's what I love about it. I don't. I want to say dislike, but I suppose I have friends who do offer something different, but fundamentally we're the same in terms of
Well
that.
said.
Yeah, but you know how sometimes you said, as the years go by, you sort of realize certain things. And for me, right, I realize when you get older, so to speak, or let me put it another friend nicer way, as the years go by, um, finding friends who align in value, it takes time.
It does. I think adult friendships are highly understated, and
Mm,
especially in terms of the amount of effort, in terms of the amount of time investment that they demand.
it's
I
true.
do think, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you
And
find? Oh, sorry,
mhm.
sorry, Nanti, as you were.
No, I think also I can speak for myself here. Some of my closest friends, like Archana, for instance, I've known her for over a decade now.
Wow.
We met back in university, and yes, we lost touch in between for a while, for a couple of years, but we reconciled and we found each other. And the fact remains that today we're the best of friends for reasons that I just stated. So.
Brilliant. 10 years. Wow. It's a long time, eh? And
It is.
I think the beauty of a relationship is that even if it's 5, 10, 15, 20, you will come back.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it takes effort.
A lot.
Is friendship a two-way street?
Always. I
It is, eh?
mean, always. I mean, um, in it, I recently read this book, and I have to say this, and that kind of got me thinking. I think as people, we are conditioned to believe in the idea of permanence, right?
Mm,
But I think permanence itself, as a concept, is a bit unambitious in some
interesting.
ways.
I have. Ooh, enlighten me. Permanence. Wow. Permanence and friendships.
You know,
Okay. That's new to me.
I, and I say this because not because I don't believe in permanent things or permanent relationships or permanent friendships, but once you slide into the idea of this will remain, this will stay, and this will be forever, I think that concept for me has started to feel a little unambitious. I think,
Interesting.
and
How so?
that's how we easily slide into getting comfortable and cozy and a bit complacent about continuing to work on those relationships and those friendships and people who really 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 matter to us.
Got it. So are you saying that as a society and as friendships, if we believe if something is permanent, we're less likely to cherish it because we believe it's going to go on forever? Therefore, we don't need to put any effort into it.
Thanks for explaining that.
Sorry, is that right? Or
Yeah, I mean that's how I'm starting to feel now. I'll be honest, Jeff. I
yeah.
think um, no friendship in my life has come easy. And like I said, in my opinion, every damn friendship that I have today that I value beyond anything, and these friends who are like almost like family to me today, have happened over a period of time with persistent, continued effort on both ends. And
It does.
because we have continued to, you know, make that initiative to stay in each other's lives, to be an integral part of wherever we might be at a different point in life and different point in time, we've made that effort. And for me,
Interesting.
that you know, compounded effort is what results in something like this.
Into something special, really, isn't it?
Special.
Um, I think that's brilliant. That's beautiful. You got me thinking. Um, life is transient, isn't it?
It is, and who better to know that than me? I mean, a few years ago when I lost my dad,
Mm,
I felt like life really flipped me over. You know,
it
it
would
was
be.
uh, it was it was such a life transforming event for me, that I still struggle to sometimes explain in words. It
Sometimes you don't need words, isn't it?
I guess, especially
Mm.
if that person was perhaps the most important element in your life, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes I think as a society, as people, we try to. Sorry, Nantita. I think we try to rationalize things. We try to go, you know what? It's because of A, B, C, one, two, three. It must happen like that. But sometimes
Yeah,
things can't be explained, can they? And
yeah.
you speak to a lot of people and you go, I can't find a word to describe this. And I said, you know what? It's okay. You don't need to. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that allows people to sort of just lift beyond the feeling, but in a positive way.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and just on friendships, like just as a side note, guys, I'm very thankful that Nantita is currently, I'm looking at Nantita right now. I think we met probably, was it 2018, 2017, I believe?
2018 in Sydney.
Yeah, 2018. So Nantita was probably in Australia for maybe 2, 3 weeks, I believe, or
I was there for a couple of months,
a couple of months,
actually.
was it? Or
Right.
oh,
Yeah,
man, you
I think,
traveled a bit. Yeah, got it. And
yeah, yeah.
so I think I'm thankful. I'm very thankful that, in that sort of window, we were able to have a bit of a yarn, bit of a laugh. I know people are going to have that consistency where I like having a laugh because you really got to have a
Yes.
laugh. um, and what was interesting, Nantita, is that I've got to say thank you for responding to me, for being so open to coming onto this sort of podcast. It's a privilege, Nantita, and it's lovely to
No,
see you.
I'm so glad. No, you and I have been friends from the moment we met each other. And it's so nice. And when we were chatting on LinkedIn also the other day, right? Like I
Yeah.
said, it was so kind of you to think of me, but I've always really liked you as a person, and the energy that you bring. So I'm
Yeah.
glad
Just
you
just
chose
just
to
remember,
say
guys,
that.
Nantita hasn't paid me. She's just saying this out of her heart. Right? Just right, yeah. Or
Yeah, disclaimer.
disclaimer, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, no, I'm glad we stayed in touch, Jeff.
Yeah, it's you talk about permanency, we talked about friendships.
Yeah.
Um, I was looking at your responses on the questionnaire. It's a bit of a deep one, isn't it?
It
Um,
is.
um,
Um,
so guys, I had to write this down on the chat window because I wanted to get this word by word right. What if this life is the paradise we were promised and we're just squandering it? And when I read that, I'm like, wow, there are so many layers here, right? But why don't we let the person who gave me this response give us a window as to what she's thinking?
okay. I'm going to try because this is a question, I'll be honest, this is a question that's been lingering on my mind for too long now.
What's too long?
And uh, I think over a year.
Wow.
Um, and and of course, there is a series of things that led to that kind of uh, introspection. But because I think my thinking is also a work in progress. I suspect this question is going to linger on longer than I imagine, which is good. I'm okay with that lingering. I'm very comfortable with that. But I think there's so many, like you said, rightly said, I think there are so many layers to this question itself. And I'll start with a simple hypothesis first. I think one of the things I have realized is I essentially want to live in a world or in an environment or a society or what have you, right? Where our self-worth, and irrespective of gender here, our worth is not linked to our desirability and our family to our biology.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
And the first part, especially because it comes down to the concept of self-love so deeply for me, which at some point in my life, I've struggled with it. And maybe even today I do in pockets. But I think so many of us struggle with that idea as well.
Self-love. What do you mean by that? Like you linked it back to desirability. Wow, this is very new to me. What do you mean by that? Like self-love and the linking of desirability.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, we're in a society where we're conditioned to almost feel that if I'm not as attractive, if I'm not as accomplished, or if I'm not doing the cool things that the person who sits next to me at work or the friend I go to for movies with is doing, then maybe I'm not good enough, or
Wow.
I'm not enough even. And hence my desirability quotient is
Drops.
not as high as, you know,
The
the
person next to
common
you,
perception.
for example.
Yeah, as the common perception might want it to be, and for me that thought has lingered on for a while. And the same thing with the concept of family also. I think living far from my family for these past few years, I'm also learning how to build a family which is far from home, which is not necessarily related to me
Mm.
biologically, but related to me sentimentally, psychologically, more spiritually. Because I find that extremely important for my own sanity.
Is it is
And
when you say self-love, Nantita, do you mean the identity of being you, but also have that extension with family? Or this is wow. Okay. I'm trying to grasp it. This is quite an interesting concept there.
I think so. And I feel like self love has stuff to do with how you were raised, what your childhood was like, what your relationship with your siblings possibly was like or is today, what your relationship with your parents is like. I think there is a fair amount of debris that we carry on from those formative years.
We do. We
Uh,
all, we
and,
all do.
and, and that debris sort of obviously builds up, right? Over time, over
It does.
decades.
You carry it with you sometimes, and even though you don't speak about it, it comes out.
Exactly. And I feel in my case, I was very, very blessed. I had the best childhood, the
Mm.
best upbringing from two incredible people. And my parents gave me, I mean, everything and beyond that I could have asked for. Um, and they gave my sister and I a great quality of life, good education, a lot of freedom to explore the possibilities out there for us without inhibiting our thinking, without um, limiting our idea of what's out there. Um, they
Wow.
raised us extremely independently, and I feel very fortunate about that. But I also know I meet people here, or I've come across friends who uh, were less fortunate in the way they were raised, simply because they came from dysfunctional families, or they had very broken relationships with either of their parents, um, or they didn't really grow up with siblings even, or they did not understand the value of uh, being part of a community early on.
Interesting.
So their experiences, and when you hear them talk, their narrative is oftentimes different. Now, of course, if they've worked on themselves, you would see how they approach this whole subject with a lot more positivity and compassion. But yeah, that's not to say that there are still people who hold on to this, and that's why I think it's a lot of this self-love and the concept of it goes back to your formative years.
Mm. It does, Nantita. So you mentioned obviously your upbringing, right? Great parents for yourself and your sister. It seems to me to really establish the woman that you are now, Nantita, which is lovely, right? Um, are you saying that nowadays, society or friends or employers or whatever has created this sort of picture of a perfect person, so to speak, and then you're comparing yourself to this person hence that desirability bit. Is that affecting you in a way, or is that more of an observation that you're finding?
It's an observation, but I think it's a very proactive thought also that I hold on to, simply because I want to steer away from it affecting the way I am and the way I could be, you know.
Interesting.
It's very easy to get swayed into that thought of, oh, so if I'm not at a certain position in my career by the age of 40, then maybe I've done not so great things, you know, that thought. Or
Yeah, it's a negative
if
spiral when you compare.
absolutely. And even and not just on the professional level, right? Even
Mm.
personally, I mean, um, if I am not romantically involved with somebody by the age of, let's call it 40, because that seems to be the number of the day, but
Is she
then,
wrong? Is he wrong? What's wrong with this
or
person?
yeah, is there something off? Or it's almost considered like as though you are incomplete in some shape and form, you know. um,
It's an expectation that's been bestowed upon society, so to speak, isn't it?
so to speak. Yeah.
Where you have to do certain things, you got to hit that certain title, you need to pop out kids at a certain age, you need to go down this sort of life thing, which is like a perfectly linear line. But clearly, it's not the case, is it?
And that's also another hypothesis that I eventually had, which was, as a collective group today, our generation, we have come to believe that the only way to live is the way that we live today,
Okay,
or that the way we were taught to live. And
correct.
that's not true, you know. I think we need to be more open to the idea that there are as many ways to live as there are people in this world. And while that might sound a bit chaotic when you hear it, but that's just how the universe is structured today, you know. And you need to be open to allowing the universe to let it sway you and shift your life and the pattern of it every now and then.
But that means people are going to lose control, Nantita. People don't like losing control, right?
That's the problem. We are such control freaks. And I
Mm.
speak for myself here too.
I
You
think
know,
I think we all are.
we all are, right? We don't know. I mean, what do you do? We don't understand disarray. We don't understand uncertainty. We get scared with the idea of any ambiguity whatsoever. But
it's
that's going against the premise of what the universe is about, really, isn't it?
it's well, I can take this on so many different angles. For some reason, I'm thinking, you know, that Robert Frost poem.
Yeah.
Was it something like there were two roads in the middle, something like that, and two branched out. There was the one less traveled, obviously, and there was one which was sort of paved, right? I
Yeah.
think getting back to living in a way which doesn't have to be like what's in the past. If you go down that path, you could fail.
You could.
You could
Yeah.
fall on your face. You could fail. You could end your life. It's scary to buck the trend. It's scary to go, okay, we have this very desirable person, and you go, no, I'm not going to go down that path. Then people might think you're weird. People might think you're crazy.
Yep.
Those people who go down that path, it's challenging.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but I think bringing it back full circle, right? It really comes down to that self-love, the self-esteem, the understanding of one's identity.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I was telling I was telling Archana, I was telling my best friend, I think it was very recently, that I have come to believe that today, as I am today, and as my life stands today, I don't think I would bet on anybody as much as I would bet on myself.
Wow. Okay. Why is that? Give me how did you come to that sort of understanding or decision?
Because going back to the idea of control, right? Today I know and I have learned that I am the only one who I can control to a certain extent. I can control the way I process things, the way I absorb something, the way I respond, the way I reciprocate, the way I'm learning, the way I'm refining my own thoughts. And my control is limited to the perimeter of my thinking.
Correct.
And my opinions only. And because, like I said, I'm also working on myself constantly, that allows me to believe that I don't think I could confidently bet on anybody else except for myself at this point.
Because
I'm happy with that. Actually, I'm completely happy with that. I'm okay to go with that, because as long as I am in charge and I'm accountable and responsible for who I am, what I put out there, and what I don't put out there, it's all good.
So you're sort of saying that you're happy to control what you can within the confines of who you are. Hence, that gives you the confidence to back yourself, because you know that you can go, you know what? I either yes, no, but I have that choice. So it's very much a mental thing, isn't it?
It is.
It's very powerful.
It
is very powerful. How would you, because that takes time. That takes a lot of discipline.
Like I said,
it's not easy.
I think I'm probably sounding like I've mastered this whole thing. And my mom will probably tell you that I haven't, because, she's one other person. I kind of think my mom today is also one of my closest friends, because that woman she's an incredible human being. And I'm not saying this in any small way, and I'm not saying this because she's my mom, but she is one of the most simple, independent thinkers I know in my life. And what I mean by that is, if I were to take a situation to her, or if I were to tell her like something is annoying me, or something's in my mind and it's bothering me and all of that, her response 9 out of 10 times is so simple. It's like, really, I love how she's able to go back to the very basics in every situation of life.
The fundamentals.
Just going back to the fundamentals. Like, you need that complete 360 perspective shift, and she's my go-to person for those things. And she will really flip the funnel for you a little bit and tell you, like, okay,
share an example, Nandita. Share an example. Yeah, give us an example. Give us an example if you don't mind sharing. Yeah. I'm curious how she would take something and then translate it into a very simple thing.
Maybe, I don't know if I can give you a specific narrative like that, but I will tell you, like, very often her thinking is, if it doesn't take anything tangible away from you, then you should not spend another precious minute of your life thinking about it.
Interesting. Tangible. What do you mean by taking something tangible from you?
Like, like tangible, like money, I don't know, your roof, your food, your basics, your survival. If it's not taking away any of that, which is what you really need, then you shouldn't really worry about it. And she also often advises me about this one thing, which which I don't know when I will learn, but it's powerful to keep repeating that to myself,
Yeah.
which is we need so little as people to lead a good, healthy, sophisticated, happy, peaceful life. And if you can really define those 5 bullet points of what those basic necessities and prerequisites for you are, then you are sorted. You are untouchable. You know, nobody can mess with your brain and your energy.
Are you there, Nandita? Or are you still working on it?
I I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there, and I think my list also changes a little bit. So
So therefore, you're not the master yet, but
no,
in time.
no. For me, she's like the master of this thing. She's really mastered this whole ideology and this concept, and she's very profound. She's incredible, basically.
It's lovely. It's lovely to
And,
have, especially a family member who can be that sort of guiding light for you, isn't it?
oh yeah, she is my guiding light. I love that, actually. Yeah, she's my guiding light. She's also my biggest advocate. She's my biggest supporter. If I'm doing something, she's almost always the first person on my mind that I want to share this with, you know? Because, and again, like, I think our relationship has also evolved these past many years, which is why I consider her almost as like a close friend and not my mother, which is why
That's powerful. That's very powerful.
yeah, she's the first person I almost always think of when I want to share something in my life.
You know, that's it's a beautiful sort of, mum-daughter relationship, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And like I said, I think I had the same relationship, the same thing with my dad while he was around. And I'm so glad, even after his passing, she has really, made the extra effort, and she's gone the extra mile to bridge so many gaps for me, with me, towards me. And I'm so, every morning I feel the most grateful for just having her in my life.
That's lovely. And does that then come back to what you originally talked about? You talked about self-love. You talked about trying to, bring a piece of family, with you. And obviously your mum's overseas. It's naturally you have that physical distance. How are you approaching creating this sort of family support with you?
I'm not really actively approaching the subject as such. I'm not actively doing anything, if that makes sense. I think I really value the people in my life. I love the people that I have in my life today, whether that's my family, whether that's my close circle of friends, whether those are friends here in Europe, or friends back home in India. I love every single person for who they are in my life and who they are to me. So but what I'm trying to do today is I'm trying to identify who those people are, who I would fight to continue having in my life.
Wow.
That's my family,
How do you know that?
How do you identify that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's like sort of saying, how do you identify someone who's going to really be there for you thick and thin? Like, let's be honest, we don't want, the last thing you want is that you go through some sort of tragic event, because when you do, touch wood, that's when the true people come out, right? How do you find that? When times are good, right? You'll have a laugh, you have a gander, right? But how do you really know when someone's there when the times get tough?
I think you start you learn to spot the difference, Jeff, of over time. You learn, if you keep your eyes and ears open and your mind sharp, you learn to spot that. You do. I believe so.
I agree. It's a sort of an intuition thing, isn't it? That comes
absolutely.
from
You
how people
learn to
act.
spot it. You learn it. You learn it eventually. And here's another thought, right? I think, again, maybe going back to a little bit of the societal conditioning, we are often taught, or we somehow grow up fearing the things that actually have the potential to set us free. And the moment you start identifying those things and you stop fearing them and you start facing them head on, I think that's where the genius is.
Okay, well, what is this thing that's in people's way, and once they conquer it, they become free? What is it?
It could be different things for different people, right? Depending on who they are.
What's it for you, Nandita? What's it for you?
Oh, wow. I think, like I said, one of the fears, and I'm still working on it, is back to the first thing that I mentioned, which is just the sheer impermanence of things in your life.
Because does it come back to the fact that you want to control it? Hence, you want to create that permanency? Got it. So it's an attachment thing then, is it?
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I mean, you could call it different things, but I think the pandemic really taught me that I need to get comfortable with the sheer impermanence of anything, whatever that might be.
It's pretty powerful. You know, this COVID thing, right? It's sort of been, obviously people have died. It's been crazy. It's sort of acted as a bit of a cleansing event.
It has,
so to speak, for a lot of people out there. But it's a positive thing. I'm always cognizant of looking at the positive of things. And as we know, COVID's been a terrible thing. But at the same time, like you, Nandita, like myself, like a lot of people out there, it's really that it's acted as a light bulb for a lot of us, isn't it? So what would you recommend to someone if they did come up? You mentioned that that thing in front of people could be anything, and that's stopping them from really setting themselves free, right? How have you, well, like I said, you're still facing it, right? In terms of that permanency, transient thing, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
How does one conquer that? Can one conquer that? Or is it more accepting for what it is?
I think it's possible to conquer it. It's, I think we all need to really get out of the thinking that things are impossible. I think many things are possible. You can make it happen if you are conscious, if you're diligent, if you're disciplined about it. And I'm positive that this is also possible, but it has a lot of, I have a lot of inner work to do around it, and I'm sure everybody else does too. And as you rightly said, a big part of that is acceptance, acknowledgement first, I think, to start with, because a lot of us also struggle with acknowledging what's really going on. And so that cognizance and then the eventual acknowledgement of, okay, this is what it is, and then accepting it for what it is. I think those two steps on their own are quite powerful, and those are difficult, but they're not impossible.
No, I don't think it's getting back, what's interesting then, Peter, is that I'm sort of thinking of things, and I can tie it back to what you've been saying before about you back yourself because you believe you have that control to go, you know what, I can make that decision, right? So that's a good first step, acknowledging it, accepting it for what it is, knowing what you can control. And like what you said, right, we're all not perfect, right? We're all working along a certain journey, but as long as we recognize that journey, that's the most important thing, isn't it? I'm curious about the paradise word. Now, you mentioned in your responses the paradise we will promise. What is that paradise we will promise?
It's life.
And we're squandering it in a sense of how?
Why not? If each person could live every moment and every day of their life to their highest potential or being their most authentic self, that's how.
Interesting.
And I know those are, it sounds very good in theory, but I'm trying to be that way now. I'm really, really trying hard. I've learned to draw my boundaries where I don't believe I want to invest my time, energy, money, resources, space, what have you. I have learned to say no to opportunities where I instinctively knew that this might not be my best foot forward. I have learned to close doors with people, even friends, where I knew that over time, this would not be a fulfilling relationship. So
it takes a lot of courage to do that.
It does. Again, one of the things that we sometimes fear doing, but also has the highest potential to set you free.
I like it. What caused you to go along this journey, Nandita? Like, was there a catalyst for this? Because I don't remember these conversations when you and I were chatting back in 2018.
I feel like I was such a numpty when I met you back in the day. I was a noob in so many things. I was a child, I feel.
Wow. So you really, you've come out in a way, isn't it?
I think
you're away from home. You're away from home. You got the big curl pants on.
No, but I feel it feels like, so
you've awakened. I can feel it. You feel as though you're awakened. It's lovely, hey?
No, you know me. But I think one, like I said earlier, a big life transforming event that happened with me was my dad's passing. And I think a lot of the stuff I feel today, or that I'm speaking about today, has been in the making for the past few years since his passing. And everything has compounded to the things I'm talking about and my perspectives today, right? So my dad he was a great person. He was an incredible human, almost the best guy in every damn room kind of a person.
Wow.
He owned his thoughts. He was a classic.
Your thoughts. That's powerful.
Yeah. He was a classic people influencer, just with the sheer magnetism that he had, but also with the quality of his opinions and the quality of his decisions, So
I like it.
When he left, I think when he left, for me, I felt like my life suddenly started in some way. It started on a blank canvas.
A renewal, somewhat.
Well, back in the day, actually, I thought it was. I still remember one of the nights, a couple of days after his passing, I was sitting outside in the apartment in back in Chennai, and I was just weeping, and I was just looking up at the sky, and I was like, okay, I'm not so sure what I'm supposed to do from here, So back in the day, I didn't look at it like a renewal, to be honest. Today, I feel like, yes, that was a powerful renewal per se that the universe was handing out to me. But that night, and in the moment of it, in the confines of that sort of experience, I was literally looking up at the sky, and I was like, okay, I'm here, but I'm not so sure where this goes from here. What am I supposed? What's the next thing for me to do? I was so blank. It was literally like this blank canvas in front of me. And I was like, okay, what is this?
Yeah, you don't know.
It was a black box for me.
It reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote, how you can only connect the dots looking back.
I think
it's so true, isn't it? Yeah, you can only connect the dots looking back.
True. It is so true. You can only connect those dots when you look back, and when you consciously look back to every similar or every other life transforming event that you went through.
It takes it gives you humility, I think, when you're able to do that. I think being humble about certain things, being grateful about certain events. A passing in a family is never easy.
Yeah.
But it's life. It's life. It's a paradise. We can. I get it now. We can create a paradise for ourselves. But of course, it takes those certain ways of conquering certain things, acceptance, acknowledging it, being humble. I get it now. I get it. I was looking at your response. I'm like, wow, I didn't see where this is going, and I was so excited about where this would go. But I'm seeing it now.
Yeah, I tell you, my dad, he lived a good life. He lived a full life. He was loved by everybody who knew him. He was loved by his family, his friends, his colleagues. He was extremely respected in the industry. Professionally, he was very, very sought after, and he is a classic example for me of this whole paradise living, which is he romanticized everything. He believed in living life king size. He believed that if I'm going to be in a certain situation, I must linger over everything I touch. He, for me, embodied all of this. And today that he's not here, and I feel like I am an extension of who he was. I genuinely believe that.
You carry that torch, Nandita.
I'm trying to carry the torch, if that makes sense.
Carry it. You're gonna go to the Olympic Games. You're gonna carry that torch. I like it. I love it. I one of the beautiful things about doing this podcast is that I have an idea about this person. I reckon he or she would be quite an interesting person to talk to. So far, so good. Touch wood. I've been pleasantly surprised when I hear people say to me, "No, Jeff, I'm pretty boring." And I'm like, you know what? Everyone's got a story to tell. And it's a beautiful one, regardless of what it is. I feel it. I feel the energy, Nandita. I feel, it's an honor to see this new you. It's still you, of course, but it's a new you.
It's still me, Jeff. You remember one day I was so bored in the office, and I actually sat down on the desk with
no. Yeah. You were so productive. You were so productive. No. You've been good. It's such a hard worker, always on the computer, typing away. Yeah, you got to have those laughs, have a bit of fun. So, so where is this life going to take you, Nantita?
Um, I hope someplace good.
Where is it? Where is this
I don't
someplace?
know. I don't know. For now, I am doing the best I can. I'm living it the best way I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I am trying to really savor in every day as much as I can.
You know you now. Yeah, to me, you sound like a very confident woman who understands herself, um, is willing to back herself. You know, some people might go, "Oh, Nantita's so arrogant," and da 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 da. Right? Hey, each to their own in terms of how
Yeah.
people perceive things. But yeah, you just got to do what you do, eh?
Yeah, you got to. And you you have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't, nobody will. Nobody will.
You remind me of another quote by Maya Angelou. Have you heard of that woman before? Maya Angelou.
Of course, she's a legend.
She goes, if you believe in yourself, no one can take that away from you.
Oh, that's beautiful, right?
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
isn't it? If you believe
Yeah.
in yourself, no one can take it away from you because you said it yourself, right? You
Yeah.
you you sort of brought it to life. So how is anyone going to take it away from you?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. You need to believe in yourself. And I think if, and I'm also, and this is more on the professional side, but I I constantly advocate this, even internally in the company with my teams, people I mentor. You need to talk about your achievements. You need to beat that drum and say, you did this.
hmm.
Um, and you shouldn't be shy of it. You shouldn't fear being misconstrued for beating your own trumpet or for speaking too much about your own accomplishments. I mean, naysayers will always be naysayers. So
You're always going
I
to get
don't
it.
think you should ever let people drag your energy down or your confidence, but you should be able to speak about your achievements and you should speak about them
I think
as
no
often as you can.
judgments. No judgments. Um, some people like to do it. Some people don't. By all
Absolutely.
means, when you're in a certain environment, whether it be a workplace, family life, in a friendship group, there are expectations, whether it be societal, whether it be from the group, whether it be there's so many different things, right? As opposed to worrying about this, and this, and this, and that, right? You just got to be yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow, I like it. But don't mind me, Nantita. I realized on your bookshelf there's this book, Sapiens. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you finished it?
Yes. I've read a lot of the books in my living room right now. But I also I also suffer from this thing that the Japanese called I think it's called sundoku, if I'm pronouncing it right, which is basically buying more books and essentially collecting more books than you end up reading.
Is
So
that the case or
I do have that problem as well, but I try to read every night before I go to bed. So
it's okay?
I
It
have
looks
books
good. I
next to
like it. I
me.
like the setup, by the way. So
Yeah.
don't worry about reading it. As long as it looks good and you meet that desirability level, it's all good.
It's all good. It's all
It's all
good. I
good.
got
I love it. I
no,
love it.
I try to read. I try to read. I try to keep myself informed. I try to read at least for 20 minutes every night. So I always have a book next to me on my bed.
Yeah.
I can quickly grab and just, even if it is 2 pages, I try to read it before I crash.
Yeah, you sort of get that new perspective and whatnot. Just don't mind me. I just realized we've been talking for an hour. I didn't even realize that.
Wow.
Um, but that's the beauty of it all, isn't it? Um, I get it now. Like I said to you, I was very not confused. I didn't know where this would go in terms of that sort of single line you had, but I love it. I love that, you know, self-love, self-identity, knowing yourself, moving forward, being confident in yourself. Hey, why not? Go for it, right? Um, right, straight away, this has been a very positive conversation. And I think it's fantastic, right? Um, People in the past have told me, Jeff, you gotta mix it up by having some sort of lightning round where you give off these random questions. And I said, why? What's the purpose? Yeah, to keep it interesting, right? And I said to myself, I'll do it just so I can put the person in an awkward position.
Mm. Oh, wow.
Okay, so you're ready. So you're ready, Nantita, right? There's a couple of questions, right? But these are pretty easy, right? I think these are pretty easy. I think knowing
Okay.
you're gonna go walk in a park, right?
Right. Okay. I'm going to try. I'll do my
Okay.
best.
So I want you to remove your learnings as much as you can. It's a blank slate again, Nantita. You're 5 years old now. You're going back. And, by all means, you are going to naturally have some sort of anchoring in your mind because you've lived a certain life. You're currently in marketing. Is that correct, Nantita?
That's right.
Would you still do that? If you're 5 years old now, it's a blank sheet of paper. Would you still want to do marketing, or is there or was there something else that you always wanted to do?
Um, I can't put a specific word to it, but I always wanted to be in a people-facing work. But something I'm growing super interested in at the moment, and maybe that could potentially be my career B, is being in international relations, sort of
Politics or
in politics.
Yep.
In politics, sort of being either like a lobbyist or being like an international relations officer, mediating between, propagandas and things like that.
Because you want to make a greater impact, so to speak?
Because I want, precisely, yes.
Got it. I think impact is something that we all want, isn't it? How do we getting back to your sort of response? How do we ensure that this paradise that we have in terms of life, we don't squander it?
Yes. See, that's caught on now.
I love it. I might have to trademark that or something like that. Keep in mind that I own the rights to this podcast, right? So
yes, I get it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Plan B, eh? Interesting. International relations, making greater impact. Go for it. I think you've got it already.
And I think some bit of that I'm starting to do now with my new position at EBOB. That for me is super exciting. The European Women on Boards is a very, very special, committed organization which works towards establishing a clear global gender diversity at all the C-level decision-making, board-level positions of European organizations. And I'm very honored to be one of their committee chairs. And one of the agendas I have specifically is actually twofold. One is to develop what is called the C-level leadership programs. And these are essentially development programs that help all of the mid-level women managers in different organizations to really upskill, to level up, and position themselves in more executive, managerial, board-level positions. And the second thing that we will start soon is the cross-border mentoring program, which is something I'm equally passionate about, which is how do we match a mentor and a mentee sitting in different parts of this amazing continent and get them to meet despite the borders and the boundaries, but get them to work together and elevate each other. And we do this with a simple, it's like a matching event, right? Where we match two humans based on their skills, their experience, their propensity to learn, to activate each other even. So yeah, these are going to be my two key agenda as part of EWOB.
Wow. You're living it already. Wow, brilliant. This is the European Women on Board. Is that correct? EWOB.
That's right.
And you're part of the committee now as chairman. Is that correct? Or
yes. And I specifically chair these development programs.
Wow, there you go. That's fantastic, Nandita. So naturally, European, obviously, it's everywhere, isn't it? Where's the main headquarters of this organization?
So the headquarters per se is here in Brussels.
Brilliant.
Because a couple of years ago, when the organization was formed, it was an umbrella association under the EU. It was basically a grant project from the European Commission. So the headquarters per se is here in Brussels.
Yeah.
But the fact still remains that the main committee members, even some of the board members, are very distributed in different parts of Europe. We have people living in Italy, a lot of people from Czech Republic, some in the Netherlands, and
Europe is such a diverse continent of so many different nationalities.
Absolutely.
I love it. I see that smile on your face. You've got it. I think they're going to, I think that's brilliant. Keep me updated. I actually wanted to talk to you about that actually. And it's pretty cool how that question led you into EWOB.
Yeah. I think because with EWOB, because I play this important role, I believe I have a more active voice in being able to impact and influence how some of the leading organizations in this continent are now going to perceive and pursue gender diversity, getting more female leaders in decision-making positions and roles and responsibilities. So for me, that's already quite
that's impactful. It is. I think it's a fantastic initiative, Nandita. And I think, you being part of it, I'm confident.
Thank you.
One more question, Nandita.
Yeah.
A bit of fun. You've got to have fun, right? You got to have a laugh.
Got to have fun, of course.
You got to have a laugh. I might have a podcast jersey that just says you got to have a laugh. Paint for me your retirement, Nandita. Paint it for
my
me.
Retirement?
Paint it. I want you to be very vivid in how you describe what your life will be like when you're a certain age. It's time is always up, so to speak, and you know it. Where are you? Are you sitting somewhere? Are you enjoying something? Are you with someone? Are you playing something? Are you eating something? What is it? Paint for me, Nandita in her retirement.
Oh, wow. I don't think this question, I don't think I've even asked myself this yet, because I feel retirement's far away. But I think two things will certainly form a significant part of this sort of retirement picture. One would be hopefully move to a country with plenty of sunshine and perhaps sea. I would love
it. I'm seeing the sun.
I would love to live close to the sea and perhaps have a house almost by the sea where it opens up to the sea, even if that's not too ambitious.
No. You can. You're dreaming it, right? Anything's possible. Anything's
possible, right?
Anything's possible.
And certainly, I think the other integral part of this whole picture will be I've always loved traveling. I've loved just I don't know, getting on a flight or hopping on a train and going to a completely new random city, town, country. And I think that will always be there for me. Like,
You're very much an international type of person, so to speak.
I think so too. I think more than that, for me, I love exploring new cultures, just having new experiences around people, around places. So that for me will always be there. So hopefully retirement will allow me to like wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to go here in 2 days. So just pack my bags, book that ticket, and just fly over.
I like it. I like it, Nandita. I like it. So very much not a nomadic lifestyle, but more in a sense of since you enjoyed new experiences, new people so much, it's going to become a huge part, even more so as the years go on.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I only see this increasing.
Got it. And India?
Not yet? India will always be home in some way, right? I am extremely close to my family. I love my family, I guess, as much as anybody else does. But my family, for me, which basically my immediate family is a mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my beautiful 7-year-old nephew. And for me, my family is my biggest support system today. And I mean more from a psychological and sentimental perspective, right? I think, and they're also like my biggest advocates in many ways. So for me, I would always, they're also, they say that whenever you're feeling low, you need to go back to your source, right? Whatever your source is, your source of happiness, peace, whatever, what have you, right? For me, they are my source, which is why I go home as often as I can, which is not very often these days. But whenever I go, I feel like this instant rejuvenation in my mind and body. And I know that simply because I'm back to my source, so they will always...
Home is the heart. So India will...
I think
India will always have a special place.
Absolutely. Whoever came up with that line needs to be given multiple more awards, because home is genuinely where my heart is. And for me, home is where it's not even a place. For me, my home is my most favorite people, which is my family. And hence home is India.
It's for you, Nandita, is very much the people, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I keep saying this, right? I derive my energy from people, from the people who I love the most. And my first circle obviously includes, this little beautiful family I have. And for me, going back to them is really a non-negotiable. I need to go back to them as often as I can.
Family is non-negotiable.
Oh, yes, not at all.
You remind me of that movie, George Clooney movie, Up. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Do you remember that scene where George Clooney goes to the guy and he's inside this classroom and he's a bit unsure as to whether he wants to walk down the aisle?
Yes.
Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do.
And do you remember George Clooney? He didn't really know what to say properly, right? But there was one line that really hit home. Can you remember what that line was?
No, I don't. Remind me.
Oh, I'm holding you by a hook, right? It's and as you said, life is better with company.
So that's totally, I think
it's true,
it's so, yeah, I mean,
it's people. It's all people. It's relationships.
It's the truth of my life, for sure. It's the truth of my life, for sure. I mean, I
almost stole your thunder, by the way, by that cool line, right? So I'm cognizant. I know you and I can probably I know probably I could talk to anyone for like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, right? Nandita, any sort of final words that you want to share?
Oh, I mean, um, I think this is there was this quote which I read back on. It was my first day of university at Warwick in the UK, and I was waiting in the business school, and there was this book, and it was a quote written on the first page of the book, and that quote, 11 years today, has still stayed with me.
Oh, wow.
And it is probably the most beautiful quote I've ever read. And I'm just going to say that to close this podcast, which is um, wherever you go in this world, no matter what the weather might be, always bring your own sunshine.
Beautiful. Say it again.
Wherever you go in this world, no matter what the weather might be, always bring your own sunshine.
Fantastic, Nandita. Nandita, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, Jeff.
Enjoy your weekend of being an introvert.
Oh, that I'm going to send you pictures of what I do this weekend. Just to
you should. You know, like I'm like, wow, he's in Belgium now. Where's that? See what I mean? But Nandita, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise, Jeff. Always good to talk to you. I'm so glad we're friends. I'm so glad we've managed to stay in touch all through these crazy years.
Yeah. I'm hogging up the podcast time, right? Another good quote that I remember, right, is that the person who begins to live life more seriously lives without it. Get it?
Good.
Brilliant.